Welcome to the Celebrate Arkansas podcast. I'm Jocelyn Murphy, the managing editor, with Alexa Williams, the director of growth and development, and we're joined today by Caroline Stelte, the founder and CEO of FOY Wine. FOY Wine?
Dealcoholized wine.
Sorry, say that word again.
Dealcoholized.
Alcoholized, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the full name is FOY Dealcoholized
Yeah, but
wine.
FOY is fine, yeah.
Okay.
I know, that's a mouthful.
Thank you for being here,
Of
Caroline.
course, yeah, thanks for having me.
So we are talking to you. You have a lot of projects going on, but specifically we wanted to get to talk to you during October about your dealcoholized wine for Sober October.
Yeah.
So we're excited to hear more about your small business and also just the idea of Sober October and get to hear about some more of your other projects that you have going on.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
So let's start with a little bit about your business. You've kind of always been pretty entrepreneurial. Can you tell us a little about some of your background?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Northwest Arkansas. I'm the only one in my whole family born here. I'm the Archie of the family. I get made fun of, but now it's cool, so I'm like, shut up. My family's from California originally, so we moved here, obviously, before I was born. And my mom was always an entrepreneur, so I get a lot of that from her. The apple does not fall far from the tree. And she always taught me, like, make your own money, be able to stand on your own 2 feet, that kind of thing. And she was a single mom most of my whole life and still is. So anyways, I fast forward. When I was 15, I used to live at a wedding venue, and so I started my career in photography that way. And I did photography from 15 to, I just quit last year. So can I do math? 8 years. And then transferred to FOY. And so that's where I'm at now. And yeah, always been like entrepreneurial. I've always wanted to be my own boss. Like even at school, I remember being like, what's the point of this? Like I'm just going to be in charge of myself. Like I don't really need to be here. Like even since like second grade, I'm like, this is a waste of my time. How do I get out of here? Like I begged my mom to be homeschooled just so I could like get into the workforce. So I just was always on track to like do something like that. So now we're here.
Yeah. Self-starter from the very beginning.
Yes, yes.
And how long has FOY been in the works?
So FOY became an idea in my head in January of 2023, so not that long ago.
Okay.
Wait, is that?
Almost 2 years.
Yeah, is that right? Mm-hmm. 2020. Yeah. So almost 2 years. But we only got bottled in December of 2023. So the idea from start to finish, like bottling day, I say is finishing day. It's January to December. So very quick. I actually did the 75 hard of January of 2023. And if you're not familiar with that, it's a really hard challenge. And part of the challenge is you can't drink alcohol for 75 days. And so I always was like more of a sober, curious kind of gal. Like I wasn't a heavy drinker. I never went to college, so I never had that experience. And of course I drank here and there. And I would say I drank like probably once every 3 months, like with food, like very intentional. And I just always was like that. So that being said, when I did the challenge, the hardest part, was drinking a gallon of water a day. That was horrible. I had to literally pee my pants every 2 seconds. But like I said, it wasn't drinking alcohol. So when I completely was like, I'm not drinking alcohol, then I was like, oh, like I'm going to try some non-alcoholic beers, wines, like see what's out there. Because I normally just don't grab those. I go for sparkling water or something else. So I tried the beers, loved them. I was like, wow, this is like a big thing. They're killing that. And then I tried the wines and I was like, yeah, I'm not that fond of these. Like they are so sugary. They taste like grape juice, really high in calories. So how can could I make one that's different and that's better? And like, could I be able to do that? So again, it's 75 days is a challenge. I started January, ended in March. A week before I ended the challenge, I already had a phone call with my winemaker and I was like, let's do this. And yeah, so that's like kind of how it blossomed. And I'm like, I think and just through my research and all of that, it's like not even a trend. It's just like what people are going towards is like more healthier lifestyle. Again, more sober curious. There's a new thing called zebra striping as well. And so it's like when you drink real wine and then you alternate and for like a sparkling water or like a non-alcoholic option, and then you drink real wine again. And so that's really big, just like for people to cut back. And so again, I was like, I can't do this alone. Like, I don't know where to start. So I'm going to have to bring a winemaker in. And luckily I found him through backtrack. When I turned 21, my family, again, is from California. So my mom was like, let's go to, there's this town called Healdsburg, which is like on the other side of the mountain of Napa. So anyways, we went there. Long story short, one of our first tours was like, meet the winemaker in her home. And so we go to her house. She's amazing. We were like, you're the cutest person ever. We're going to steal you. And her name's Daisy. And so flash forward, sorry. When I was developing FOY, I'm like, that's the only winemaker I like know. Like, so let's call up Daisy. So I called up Daisy and she's like, I'm retired. So is my husband. Really, like, we're not doing this much, but my son can help you. And so our winemaker is Daisy's son, Drew.
Okay.
And he's amazing. 3rd generation winemaker. So humble, so amazing. I'm like so blessed that he just pretty much fell in my lap. So very honored to have him.
And so is that who I've seen you in clips walking through the vineyards with?
Yes,
okay.
Yeah, that's Drew. And then he does consulting for like other wineries. Okay. And then he has his own family wine. It's called Palmieri. And so that is very successful. And but FOY is his first non-alcoholic. So he was like very eager to start this. He, even in his world, he's like, this is like the new wave. Again, it's not even a trend. It's like what you should get on. And so he's also equally excited to be a part of it. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So how much input then do you have as someone who's not been in the winemaking business prior to FOY? You get connected with your winemaker and you're developing your own bottle. What was important to you for the wine to have, for the flavor profile to be? How much input did you have in any of that process, or was that mostly him and he's like, here you go?
No, so he like actually likes when clients are really hands-on. And that was really scary going in, because I'm like, wine is like so intimidating. At least it was for me. I'm like, I kind of know what I'm drinking. And I used to live in Italy, and so I developed like a palate through just living there. But still, I'm like, I would never be like, I know, like, this is dry. I'm like, I have no idea, honestly. Now, so with Drew, so the first time I ever met Drew, we met, like, decided if it was a good fit. It was, obviously. And then we went back to his parents' house, and they had, I believe it was like 4 different varieties of wine. 2 were non-alcoholic, like already on the market, and they were wrapped in foil. And so I've never asked him if he does this with all his clients, but he did it with me for some reason. So basically he was getting me to like describe what I wanted without like having a label or anything. So basically we drank all this wine, and I spit it out because I wasn't drinking at the time. I still don't, but doesn't matter. Tasting, yeah. And not weirdly enough, but if you didn't know, like, a lot of winemakers do spit out their wine. Like, they don't just like get drunk all day. Some do, but mine does not. So he also had like a spit tune, and they're spitting it out. Anyways, there was like 4 or 5, like I said, on the counter, all wrapped in foil so you couldn't see the labels. And we spent probably like, and my mom was there also, we spent like 30 minutes just like in silence, just like writing down what we liked about each one. And they were all different varieties, like rosé, Chardonnay, all this stuff. So bubbly, not all this stuff. And so then after the 30 minutes was up, his father was in the room, like I said, and he was like, okay, like, Caroline, you go first. I was literally shaking in my boots. I'm like, I don't know how to describe any of this. Like, my notes were literally like, this is sweet. Like, this is too dry, whatever. And again, I don't know. So, but that that process like really helped me like vocalize what I wanted. And so then we narrowed it down to, I want the cleanest possible and the most wine-like taste that like lingers on your tongue, and it's not just rolls back and you're done. because to me, that's what wine is. It like lingers, it's like more complex, all of that good stuff. So after that activity, he was like, great, I think I got it. And what you're wanting, and let's go from there. So after that, he did ask me what varietal, like of grape I wanted. And that's when I was like, I trust you, and whatever, like this is our first round. So we want to make an impression. We want it to be good. So like you can pick that. And so he did pick the Chardonnay. But other than that, like he did most things. And then I would fly out and try it and be like, yep, we're on. This tastes awesome. I'm very proud. He would love my feedback, and then just go from there.
Okay.
So very collaborative.
Yeah.
Very collaborative. But I never want to be like, I did it all. Like I stirred it in the barrels. Like I literally didn't. But yeah, he's very kind enough to let me like be hands-on with it too.
Yeah. So I think if a lot of people maybe aren't as well versed in the non-alcoholic world, like you mentioned, there are beers, there are now seltzers that are from alcohol brands that are non-alcoholic, so it is definitely expanding. But tell us a little about the wine itself, because it goes through the same process, right?
Yes.
You just do something a little different towards the end.
Right. So again, when I started it, I was like, all of my meetings, I was like, listen, I'm not doing this and spending all this money if it can't be the cleanest ingredients and cleanest calorie count we can make it. And everyone in the room looked at me and was like, we can do it. And I'm like, okay, I trust you all. Like, you better not be lying to me. Because then again, all the ones on the market are just very high sugar, just junk in them. And so, lost my train of thought. What was your question?
The wine itself, the process.
Yes. Okay. So, so it's made exactly like traditional wine. That's why we have Drew, the winemaker. I think a lot of people get confused by that of like, oh, is it just grape juice? And that's couldn't be farther from the truth. So, FOY specifically, we aged our grapes in barrels for 5 months to really bring up that complexity. And they're aged in 100% French oak, which just sounds very fancy, and it is. But, so we age it, and so when you taste it out of the barrels, it's actually like really strong on purpose, because then after that life of it in the barrels, we take it in to get dealcoholized. So basically that's a big like metal, you can do it a lot of ways, but FOY does it. There's a big metal tank and it spins really fast. It's called spinning cone method, and it literally just separates the ethanol and just it drops on the ground. And so that's really cool and high technology. But it's funny because that technology has actually been around for a while. It's mainly catered towards like big alcohol companies, and say they over make their alcohol content and it's like 11% and it's supposed to be 8 for like tax reasons, or just like that's where their brand is 8%. They would take it to this facility. It's been around for like 50, I think, years. And they would just bring it down a little bit. So now, since dealcoholized has been a trend, they're bringing it down all the way. So that's how FOY does it. And then after that, we take that liquid and we, on bottling day, add clean ingredients to build back up that flavor. Because when you dealcoholize something, you are left with kind of like an empty flavor. Because wine, it's like a full body and like dry, like I said, or there's all these notes to it. So when you strip it of its alcohol, a lot of that sugar comes out that makes that taste like that. And so that's where that clean ingredients comes back. So we add all these clean ingredients on bottling day to again build up that complexity and flavor that you know and love.
Well, and you've mentioned clean ingredients a couple of times. Like what is that that's going back into the bottle? Yeah,
so it's I don't know off the top of my head, but it's like, so part of our ingredient list is dealcoholized wine. We have yeast protein in there to like, again, make it that like what of traditional wine, and a couple other ingredients. And then our calorie count is 30 calories per bottle and then 1 gram of sugar. So super clean, mean, and tasty.
And you said you still don't really drink or don't drink at all?
So when I stopped drinking January 1st of 2023, my 75 days was up in March, like I said, like mid-March. And after that, like with FOY and everything going on, and like building a brand is no easy feat, I like did not have time to drink. I'm like, I can't, like there's no possible way. So I just stopped, and I still do not drink to this day. Yeah. And it's just changed my life, honestly. It's been amazing. Like I said, I have to be on a lot, like phone calls, meetings, and I just, it fits my lifestyle really nice. And also I never want to be, with starting FOY, I never wanted to be like a sober advocate, because I never hit rock bottom to be sober. And so that was never my message of like, I'm sober, it's so easy, because I know for a lot of people that walk in those shoes, like it's not, like it's definitely not easy. You have to do a lot of work to like stay clean. And so that just wasn't my story, and I'll never be like, I'm sober and this is why, and it's so easy, like I said. So yes, I would say I'm sober, but like I would never like put that in text or anything like that. Yeah.
More of a lifestyle choice, which is very on trend with Sober October, Dry January, things like that. People are being more conscious of what they put in their bodies and want to make healthier lifestyle choices. And so this is a product that allows them to do that in still a very elevated way, that you can still have social drinks. And
For sure.
I will say, whenever I was pregnant, that I did try other non-alcoholic wine options, and I would echo what you said, that what's currently available on the market, a few years ago at least, was very much juice-like,
Right.
or super sugary. It wasn't necessarily the same experience. But I have tried FOY, and I will say that it's definitely a different, more elevated palate experience, all of that.
Well, thank you. I would appreciate that.
Well, I wonder if that kind of elevated experience that you're talking about is, I don't want to use the phrase "is the point," but I am curious what you would say to someone who is at the beginning. You said you might have like sparkling water or something, to someone who'd be like, why do I need to buy a special product for this? I could just drink a sparkling water, or I could, a soda or whatever. So what, I guess, why is there a market for these dealcoholized products like this?
Yeah, I just think that with my research and everything that I know now, starting FOY, it's just people are just stopping drinking. I don't know if it's because of the internet, and we're just so like, we just know more about being health conscious. Especially my generation, Gen Z, is on track to be the most sober generation of all time. And like people just want an alternative that isn't a Coke or a high in sugar product, because like you said, what is the point? Like when I didn't have FOY, I only drink sparkling water like that. It's in my veins. I'm not even a soda drinker. It's just sparkling water always at restaurants, anywhere I go. So in creating FOY, I did want that alternative. And for someone like me, it's interesting. Like I never had a problem with being like, oh, I'm not drinking tonight. But I know that's a lot of people's issues, not issues, I would say, but like social anxieties of like, oh, are they going to judge me because I'm not drinking? Or I'm just going to drink because peer pressure. And that happens a lot more than we think or know. And so in FOY, I'm like, I want to create a product that you can bring, and like people literally don't know the difference. And you're bringing, that's why it's in a bottle. That's why it has a cork on it. It's the same ritual and love. It just doesn't have alcohol. And it's funny because we've had friends that take it to their friends that we don't know. They're like, oh, I got this new bottle. And like they literally think it has alcohol in it. So I'm like, wow, like that's the best compliment ever, first off. But second off, it is like breaking that barrier of like, do what you want. Like if you are into drinking, that's fine. But like if you don't feel like drinking, there are so many options out there, and FOY is a great one. But just like having more confidence in like bringing something. Or again, if you're doing like the 75 hard or a trend or a challenge, like that is an option you can take and drink.
Right. Yeah. Without taking away from the fun of sitting down with a nice glass of wine with your friends, socializing. You still get that aspect without all the negative side effects of drinking alcohol.
Right. Yeah. And FOY's nothing against alcohol. Like, I think when I started FOY, I didn't want to, again, be like the poster child of like sobriety, because it's so much more than that. And back to like that zebra striping comment, my winemaker Drew, that's his like biggest goal. He wants to be able to bring a bottle of real wine and a bottle of FOY and interchange it on the dinner table and not be like, oh, that's non-alcoholic. Like, I don't want to drink that. That's juice. Because he's also a little bit older than me, and he's like, I'm more cautious. I just had a child. Like, I want to be there for my kid. And so like, this is a great alternative, for me as well. And so, yeah.
And so tell us a little about the word in my brain is core principles, and that's not what I'm wanting to say, but like the business itself. This is an audio medium, so for those listening, the name of the company is Formatted, FOY, all caps.
Yes.
Does that stand for something?
So it does stand for something. It's funny because when I first, again, started this, I had the name like right off the bat, and I don't know how. It was just like, yep, I'm naming it FOY. And it does stand for something. The reason why I haven't said publicly what it stands for is we're still under the trademarking process, and it takes like kind of a while, and we should have it here in a couple of months. But my lawyer advised, like, do not say it until that it is yours. And so I'm a good student of life, so I just haven't shared it. But to me, it's really obvious. There are a lot of hints, like on our website and our packaging, like that kind of thing. But yeah,
so
it will
the
come
brand
soon.
itself, when you've got FOY picked out, and you know that you're kind of venturing into this new space that, like you said, it's not just a trend. This is really, I would say, moving into a more traditional lifestyle.
For sure.
What is it that you want people to think about FOY, like as a brand, as an idea, when they think about it?
Yeah, I think that, like, again, like I said, like a different alternative. Whether you're sober or sober curious, and if you don't know what sober curious means, it means like you just dabble in the idea of being sober. You're not fully sober. So, whether you're sober curious, like I said, if you're doing a challenge or dry January, sober October, like sober spring's becoming a new thing too. I just want an alternative for those that enjoy that traditional taste of wine. And FOY, another thing we really hit home is like we want it to pair really well with food, and it does. And you can also cook with it, and it's just not loaded with a bunch of sugar that it doesn't taste good. Or again, you would rather just drink a Coke or something of that sort.
Yeah. And so, sorry, I'm just like going down my list of questions because I'm like so interested. Alexa, do you have anything you would like to jump in?
So as far as the product line as it stands, you mentioned the Chardonnay, which is the one that we've seen at stores, on social media, things like that. But I have also seen you tease that there's something more coming. Is there anything that you want to tell our audience about that?
So right now we just have the Chardonnay because, to be frank, that's all I could afford. It's very expensive to like manufacture a product, probably, as you know, or some people that have done it themselves. And so our goal is to always like have a lot of variants or varietals. So we do have one in the works. It's in barrels right now, which is very exciting. And like I said about Drew, he chose the Chardonnay. I actually chose this one.
Okay.
And so I'm super excited about it. And not only is it a new variant and so totally different, it's also, there's another like twist to it and I hate to be that person that's like, it's coming soon, but it is like very soon. Tomorrow, we're actually shooting like a little clip for it.
Okay.
So it's coming like very, very, very soon.
All right.
Which is so exciting.
Yeah. So by the time this is out to the public, we might have a little bit more information.
Yes, you might have a little bit more of a teaser. Yeah, for sure.
And you can find the Chardonnay, though, like you said, on shelves. Where can people find that around Northwest Arkansas?
Yeah, so we're all direct to consumer to start, and then we're obviously dabbling into wholesale So in Northwest Arkansas, and I know I'm going to miss something, so I'm so sorry in advance. You can find it in Liquor World in Fayetteville, Hot Vine Wine in Fayetteville, Meteor Cafe in Bentonville. That's our like best selling. And then across the street from Meteor, you can find it at Bentonville Provisions.
Okay.
And then Ramo has it. You can sip on it on the patio. Blake Street House has it. Zelly Pasta has it. Again, I know I'm missing someone, so I'm so sorry, but that's kind of...
The point is keep an eye out for it.
Keep an eye
it's
out.
Around, and
Yeah.
you can purchase
And
it.
also, if you're like in a place, like I get a lot of questions like, how can we help FOY without like just buying it? And one of those is like going into your favorite wine bar or such and being like, hey, like, do you carry FOY? And like talking about it. Like that is like such an amazing way to like spread the news or like get customers that like need it and want it. And yeah, because the goal is to make it the most accessible. And that's like back to your like core principle or whatever it's called. I wanted to make it like a household name, like accessible. Yeah. Like I don't want it to be, obviously we have to start from somewhere. So it is direct to consumer right now, but I want it to be like you walk to your local whatever and grab it and it's just in your home. That's a big goal.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's moving in that direction. I mean, you mentioned all of the spots that I go to grab wine
Yeah, well, there you go.
in the area right now. So it sounds like moving in that direction. Do you have plans to go beyond Arkansas? Or are you already in places outside of the state?
So we're in a couple of places outside of the state, but that is like a big goal for 2025, especially with this new varietal, is just to like hit it home. And I always tell people I feel like I have like a race car and my foot's on the accelerator and I like can't crash. Like I'm just like going. Because it is a lot of work. And, but yeah, we are trying our hardest to like have meetings with big suppliers and all of that good stuff and get it to people that want it. But the hardest part of FOY is the distribution of it and figuring that out because it is a non-alcoholic product. It doesn't loop into like alcohol. So we don't get taxed on alcohol because it doesn't have any. So right now we do all our distribution ourselves. It's anytime we get an order, I have to run, my assistant, et cetera, has to run and pack it ourselves. And so we're trying to figure out how, when we grow, obviously we are not going to be able to do that. So where do we go? So that's like a big question mark in the industry as a whole, not just me, but because it's so new.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you talk also a little about starting a small business in Arkansas?
Yeah.
What is kind of the environment, the opportunities? Yeah, you've started your business now. You're in this growth phase where you're thinking about what are the next steps for the business going to look like. So what is that environment and the opportunities as far as small businesses in Arkansas?
Yeah, for sure. I think, well, first of all, I always tell people like I would not have FOY if I didn't live in Northwest Arkansas, like period, end of story. I think this town is such a bubble and a unique place to live. And I grew up in Fayetteville, and trust me, when I grew up in Fayetteville, I was like, get me out of this place. Like, I never want to see this place again. But now that I'm older, more mature, whatever you want to call it, it was in my head, like an idea in my head. I am a member at Blake Street in Bentonville, and if you're not familiar, it's like a wellness house, and love it. But so again, it was in my head, like maybe I had a sketch of the bottle, like it was just like basically all in my head. But I would just yap. I'd be like, yeah, I want to start this, whatever. No one in my path said that's not a good idea. No one, not one person. And I think when you start something, you kind of wait for that of like, oh yeah, that's not a good idea. Like silly me. Not one person in this bubble that we live in said that's stupid. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm doing this. Yeah. And that being said, like again, it was just a thought in my head. This was probably in February. My mom, who I'm very, very close with, she's also a member at Blake Street. She was in the pool, and I had told her, obviously, about FOY. I'm like, I want to do this thing. And she's like, you do it. Like, do it. Let's figure it out. And I think it was the next day after I told her I want to do FOY, she was in the pool with a guy named Peter. And she never has seen Peter ever. And all of a sudden this guy is swimming next to her, and she's like, what do you do? Because my mom's a yapper, and in the best way, but she yaps. And he was like, oh, I just help ventures. I help people in the venture world and how to get into Walmart and that kind of thing. And my mom goes, oh, my daughter has a venture. Again, it was in my head.
The day after you mentioned it.
The day after I mentioned it. And so she tells him about FOY and like what I had told her. And after she gets out of the pool, I don't even think her hair was dry. She called me. She's like, I need you to come up with a presentation because you're presenting to these people. And I was like, okay. Because again, no one said this isn't a good idea. So I spent the next like hour, I think I'd like maybe a little over an hour to come up with this deck of FOY. And so just grinded that out. And then an hour, 2 hours later, Peter was there with 2 of his colleagues. And I was like, listen, this is my idea. I went through it all. And after that presentation, because I don't know, I'm just like a little 20-year-old basically in my head. I'm like, okay, I don't really know what I'm talking about. So after the presentation, I looked to them and they were like, you have to do this. And they're like, not only do you have to do this, but like the way you pose yourself and the way you're like so genuinely excited about this, like that doesn't happen often. And the confidence you have with this, I'm like, guys, I didn't tell them this. I'm like, I made this in an hour, like literally in an hour. And I had like a sketch of the bottle that I made on Canva, like not even anything. Mm-hmm. And they were like, you have to do this. And so just that, I think that meeting alone, like literally, I was like, okay, shift it into gear. It's time to go. Like these people help a lot of what's called businesses get into big places. And so they don't have to say that. They could be like, okay, you wasted our time, bye. Like they don't owe me anything. And so I was like, okay, I'm doing this. And to this day, like I'm still friends with Peter. Like he's been such a great help and helping me and his wife also. So yeah,
that's just like the most entrepreneurial thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so back to like living here, like I just don't feel like that those opportunities happen, and not that they never do, obviously, but I feel like living here has made it so much easier because again, Peter's helped me, and if Peter can't help me, he's passed me along to so and so, to so and so, to so and so, and I don't know if it's because I'm young or just the product in general. Everyone has been so excited for me and just like willing to help me and like just put their knowledge on me. I'm like, I am so grateful, like truly so grateful to live here and have these opportunities.
It does seem pretty, as someone who has not started a small business here, it seems like a kind of unique, like almost like an incubator, this region for not just businesses, period, but groundbreaking and interesting and unique ideas that maybe in some markets might seem like, oh, that's too niche or something. It seems like there's a really supportive, business-minded community here for that.
For sure. And like I said, like if someone can't help you, they know someone or 5 people that can. And they're like, oh, here, contact this person on LinkedIn. I'm like, yep, I'm doing that. And again, just people are just so nice here. And it's so unique. I don't think that kind of, I guess, hospitality, I think it's so rare here. And like them willing to help a 20-year-old, like, and being like, oh, well, I'm just going to steal that idea actually from you. You know, like no one has been shady to me throughout this whole thing. And I'm like, wow, like I look back and I'm like, wow, like that is so unique and crazy. And again, I'm just so grateful for everyone that's helped me.
I'd like to talk about the overlap with content creation too, because you've been involved in like social media presence, content creation for a long period as well. I know your pups have their own Instagram pages. FOY now has an Instagram page. You do the Middle Ground podcast with Joe Johnson Overby, another content creator. So what do you view as kind of, like I said, that overlap? Is it an asset to have a certain type of identity established in content creation before moving into starting a business, or, you know, do they go hand in hand with growth? Like, can you just talk about some of that?
Yeah. So 2 things I'll say is, like, I wouldn't call myself an influencer. Like, I know a lot of people name me that. I just, like, don't think I'm that. But like I said, I started with photography. So I did weddings. I shot weddings all over the country, also with Joe Johnson, who's my partner in my podcast that I have. And so that's where I started. But even when I did photography, I was like, I'm not doing this forever. Like, I just can't. I'm a big empath, and, like, I just absorb people's energies, like, borderline too quickly. And it just, like, wasn't good for me. Loved my brides. They were beautiful and everyone was nice, but it just was not what I thought I was going to do for the rest of my life. That being said, like, I think partnering with Joe, so in 2020, we started our podcast, Middle Ground, and I've always loved the idea of, like, putting myself out there. And I grew up, when I was little, I was, like, deathly shy, like, could not speak to anyone, didn't want to, like, for whatever reason. And so as I've grown up, I'm like, no, I need to, like, break that. Like, being shy is not going to get me to the places that I want to get. And so I have to figure this out. And so starting the podcast, I was telling Alexa before we started recording, it was so hard for me. Like, we got on the mics, and Joe's very, like, way more outgoing than I am. She's definitely the golden retriever and I'm the black cat. And our first episode, my heart was about to explode out of my chest. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? Like, I'm literally talking to someone. At the time, it was in her closet because it dampens the sound. I'm like, what? I need to get over myself. So I worked really hard. And it was just COVID and all the stuff of the world, too, on top of that. So I worked myself really hard to push myself, be like, no, you're gonna do this. And I'm so glad I did, because now, and I don't credit this to all the podcasts, but, like, the podcast really got me out of my shell, like, a lot. So that being said, we are almost at 1 million downloads on the podcast, which is, like, absolutely crazy. Thank you. But it's crazy because, like, I just talked to Joe, and, like, Joe's my friend in general, like, not podcast aside. And I'm like, oh my God, people listen to my voice. Like, that is insane. That is actually insane to me, still to this day. Anyways, so then during COVID too, in 2021, I got my dog, Frankie. She's a Dalmatian. And I was like, oh, I'll just, like, post on TikTok here and there with Frankie. And we blew up. Like, she's not to be biased, gorgeous. And
she's a very pretty dog.
she's a stunner. And B, she's, like, people just like following dogs. Like, it's just easy. Like, we're not controversial. We're just posting
very
about.
Feel good.
Yeah, it's just, like, dog mom content. So I started that in 2021, I believe. Maybe at the end of 2021, because I got Frankie in 2021. And we hit, by the time I got Frankie in September to March, I hit 100,000 followers. Wow. And so during that time, I got brand deals with PetSmart, and now I'm blanking on all these, but Digs, Crates, like, all of these big pet brands. Mm-hmm. And I love that. But I loved it because photography, you have to be so on, and, like, you're I don't know how to word it. Like, it's a service job. Like, you are serving your clients, and you're always, like, you have to be available. You have to be kind, obviously, and nice and on, like I said. With this, like, I was having meetings with, like, the PetSmart team, and then I was the talent. I was like, wait, I like this better. Like, for my personality, I'm like, wait, like, I actually like this, because they were like, here's the task, do it. And so with that, not only, like, did I make a good income doing that, but I learned a lot from, like, meeting with those big brands. And then I'm like, actually, I want to be the big brand. And I want to, like, have something for myself. So yeah, that's kind of how it went. And then from there, I just like posting in general. Like, I wouldn't say I'm, like, actively posting on Instagram, but probably more than the average Joe. But back to your question about, like, does content creation help a business? I would say yes. Like, a lot of people I know, or, like, know, like, indirectly adjacent to, are like, who does your marketing? It's literally all me. And I've noticed like through this, like I'm really good at it and I enjoy it, which is like such a bonus and a plus. And yeah, so I wouldn't say like you have to be this big content creator necessarily, but I would advise if you're like planning to start a business or brand, having someone that is like very into your brand and like knows what you want to like put out into the world. Because again, like I only consult with myself in my brain. I'm like, oh, well, this is perfect. This aligns with my brand. This is what I'm going to do. How do I execute this photo shoot and post? And I do all of that myself, just because I like to do it. And as it grows, obviously, I'll probably pass the baton on, but hopefully. And so, yeah, I wouldn't say you necessarily need to, but I feel like, too, in this day and age, people like seeing who's behind the brand and who they're supporting. Are they good people, etc. And so that's really important for me in my brand to be like, hey, I own this. It's women owned. Also, Drew lives in California, or not unfortunately, but unfortunately, probably fortunately for him, because I don't call him every day to get in content. But I want Drew to be really involved in that, because pretty much every single non-alcoholic brand out there, you don't know who owns it. And so I wanted to really change that up with ours.
Yeah, not even just small businesses. That's something that I talk about with a lot of the CPG companies that we work with, honestly, the consumer packaged goods, which is, the pinnacle of that, right? These huge brands that now have a responsibility to consumers to make their environmental practices public knowledge, their how they're treating their employees. People want to know that their money is going towards good practices like that, and that is something that I talk about with these people at these brands a lot, is coming from something established to, okay, now actually consumers are holding us to different standards and we have to meet that. So it's, of course, makes sense that that's also relevant for a new small business.
Right, yeah. And I think, and I guess it's because a lot of people are just chronically online scrolling, that they're going to find out if you're like a bad person or you've done. People are like basically FBI agents that are like 16-year-olds in their bedrooms. So I think the wave of the internet has really been like, nope, you have to show this. And so from the start of FOY, I'm like, we're doing this right, or I'm not doing it at all. Like I literally can't. And so that's always been very important to me.
Yeah.
And a full circle, kind of, since you are a businesswoman and you understand what people want, not only from your product, but also from the behind the scenes, the content, all of that always, to me at least, always ties together, right? You have to be really dialed in to what the consumer wants in your case, what your audience wants if you're in media. All of those things are always really important in business, no matter what sector you're in.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny because earlier I was saying, like, I've always wanted to be my own boss. But recently I read this thing, like, when you're a brand or like you sell a product, like you're actually not your own boss, your customers are your bosses. And so you have to like really cater to them. And that's why I'm really excited about this new varietal, because I have been listening all ears on. I'm like, what do the people want? All the feedback, yeah. And I would say that's a strength of mine too. Like, even if people don't like FOY, I want to know that. Like, why? Tell me. Because again, and I always tell people, I'm like, you're not going to hurt my feelings. If I created a product that everyone in the world liked, I would literally be multi-billionaire. Like, that'd be amazing. And it's not going to happen. So like, I love to get feedback and then pivot and be like, okay, what's our, new launch? What's in the future? And so on, so on.
Yeah. Another piece that I really would love to wrap in is just talking about your content creation background and where that has led you. I guess the point that you're at with the podcast, like you said, you guys are close to 1 million downloads. You're in some very public spaces online, and Gen Z has navigated that different from millennials, navigated it different from Gen X. It's different.
For sure.
But I'm just curious, you've been pretty open. I told you before we started, I was listening to the most recent episode of Middle Ground, and you've been pretty open about some things that happened in your personal life that were stress-induced, that I'm just curious, I guess, what role being a new business owner plays in, or I guess how that works with the social media and being so on, and people think that they have insight into your life. You know, we talk about these parasocial relationships with celebrities. People think that they know them. I would guess that it would be even more for you, because it's, you know, you live here in Northwest Arkansas.
Right.
So if someone follows you, they think they know you.
Yeah.
And they think they're entitled to these details in your life. So there's like that piece, but also just you being open and sharing these things. I guess I'm getting very rambly. I'm just asking, can you talk a little about that? I guess that influence, like where you were at with social media and how that influenced, I guess, where you're at with this new business, and what you feel like you have to share or don't have to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure.
It's not a well-formed question at all.
No, I get it. I feel like just the balance, like, and again, I feel like I'm pretty good because I don't consider myself, again, like an influencer. I just like to post. And I would say, I was thinking about this the other day in my head. I'm like, I would probably say I share only like 20% of my whole entire life. Okay. Like not that much. But again, for a viewer, you probably think you know me more than obviously you do. And I feel like, and maybe I'm a perfectionist or I'm a Virgo. So I feel like there's always room to improve. So like one thing I'll say about that is like right now, again, I only share like 20% of my life, maybe even less. And one thing I really want to, like, maybe it's in the new year because I'm so busy, but it doesn't matter, I'm getting ahead of myself, is share more about like being an entrepreneur and like what that holds, and just like day in the life, or and like maybe little reels on Instagram and that kind of thing. Because I feel like, and I feel like this is so cringy to say, but like a lot of people are interested. Mm-hmm. And I always think my life, I don't think it's boring, but like, you know, when you live your own life, it's like, okay, well, why do I want to share that? Like, it's just, I do this every day. It's kind of boring. Yeah. But like the more I'm like growing and learning all this stuff and from other people, I'm like, actually, I think it would be interesting. And not only that, like for me personally to look back and be like, wow, I started this business at 23 years old, and like now I'm 50 and hopefully I'm living in $1 million mansion somewhere. But no, all that to say, it's like more, I do what I do, but like I could do way more. And it's just like navigating that. And I share a lot of my dogs. We just got a new dog, Chloe, and my boyfriend, he cooks for me a lot and stuff like that. But all that to say too is like I don't want any of really my family members or people close to me to like be the forefront of anything. I just don't think it's fair, and like it's not about them. It's Caroline Stelte's page, and like that's what it is. So I'm choosing to put myself out there. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, sorry, it was not a well-formed question at all. I was just, because it formed while we were sitting. It wasn't a prepared question. It formed while we were sitting here. I was just curious about it because, like you said, it's your page and you're choosing to put yourself out there. But social media exists in a way that it, at this point, as I think you could say this every year for the past probably 20, 25 years, it exists in a way it's never existed before. For sure. It's tied to every other part of your life if you have any sort of presence in a way that it's never been prior to this moment. So yeah, how that impacts entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
That's
entrepreneurship.
So word.
Or entrepreneurial, which I mentioned earlier.
Thank you. Yes. But you know what I mean? And just because you have a known presence here, and then you started a business here, that's just, I was just curious for those reasons. Yeah.
And I'll say something else too, like starting FOY, so where we ship FOY direct to consumer is East and West Coast, that's it. the middle of the country hits trends last, like they just do for anything, not just this. And so a lot, like part of me is like, oh shoot, like some days I'm like, oh, I really wish I lived in California, because like all my customers are there. It's so easy, and like people know what dealcoholized wine is. You go there, they're like, okay, cool. They literally know how it's made, and like no questions asked. Here, like we do the farmers market every Saturday, and I really like doing it because I would say 90% of people have no idea what this is. They've never heard of it. They haven't even heard of non-alcoholic beer. And so a lot of our farmers market like strategy is just educating. It's like, this is what we are. This is how it's made. Here's the seed in your head. Buy it or don't. I don't care. It's coming. And so, yeah, like I said, on social media with FOY's account, it's like I have to play this, not even play this line, but it's like so many of our customers that buy it, East and West Coast, know. They're like, yeah, cool. It's just another brand order. But then I have to do a lot of educating for those that don't, because like they don't know what it is. They're like, wait, isn't that just grape juice? No, it's not. How was it made? Oh, she has a winemaker. They have all these questions. So yeah, I'm always happy to answer those in person, online, all that good stuff.
And I think that's part of why we wanted to have you on too, is because we had a lot of those questions.
Yeah, for sure.
And also, you know, just our part of our brand is trying to celebrate, literally, all parts of Arkansas, like businesses, nonprofits, people doing extraordinary things, like whatever it is. And this checks more than one of those boxes.
Right.
But it is a thing that already exists elsewhere, and so you are, with this business, are kind of part of, you're going to be part, are already part of like bringing it here and part of that education.
Yeah.
So like you said, it's coming whether you
buy it or not.
It's
on its
growing.
way.
Yeah, because we get, and I don't want to say rude, but like sometimes at the farmers market we get like rude comments, and it's basically like along the lines of like, what's the point, or
this will never work.
Yeah, this will never work. And I'm like, buddy, and I'm always nice, obviously, but I'm like, it's like $1 million industry. Like it's only projected to go up. It goes higher every year. But back to what you were saying, it is really cool to be the first in this community and like this area in general. Because I hear a lot of people, and it's funny, I maybe shouldn't do this, but like anytime I hear someone talking about like, oh, I drank too much last night, I'll always be like, oh, do you know FOY? Even if they don't know me. And then they'll be like, oh, no, I never heard of that. And then I tell them, they're like, wow, like you should be a spokesperson for that. I'm like, well, I don't know.
As a matter of
and
fact.
So I just like always like to be like, again, like this, here's a seed in your head. There is a different way to not drink, choose not to drink. Or like one of FOY's main goals is like, you drink on a Wednesday in your bathtub and like you really want to unwind and relax, but you have a huge meeting the next day. No, you probably shouldn't drink a whole bottle of wine, but you could drink a whole bottle of FOY. So just, planting that seed of like, there's another alternative if you want. It exists, and here it is.
And here it is. So where can people find FOY to keep up with this new lunch coming soon, and keep up with where should they send you that feedback? Where do you want people engaging with FOY? Yeah,
so our Instagram is drink.foy. That's pretty much like our main hub. We also have a TikTok, it's just drinkfoy. And then drinkfoy.co is our website, and that also has like a lot of FAQs. You can go and look. And like if you have a specific question, I would say either DM on Instagram, even though that sometimes does get lost. But if you have like a serious question, I would either email us, and that's on our website. There's like a contact form and all that good stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, and then our main target market is millennials. And so millennials are usually more on Instagram, so that's why we push Instagram harder.
Yeah, we are.
And I love it. Like, it's funny because like I'm a Gen Z, and you know, when you're younger, it's like, oh, millennials are so cringy and whatever. But now I'm like, no, they're my best friends. Like, they are literally paying the bills for me. I love them so much, and I do. Like, you guys are cool, and you get it. Like Gen Z, it's harder for them to splurge on a $28.99 bottle. Millennials, are pretty much more established, and again, they want to be more health conscious, and so they're buying FOY more.
Yeah. I mean, just maybe harder for Gen Z to splurge just because Gen Z still younger.
They're young. Yeah.
Maybe, like you said,
for sure,
slightly less established in a career, maybe, but also
they're getting older. Yeah, everyone grows up.
The generation that you said is on track to be the most sober generation. Yet, and is also has different education and different information about how things impact your body and how everything's interconnected and all of these things. So it's all part of it.
It's all part of it, yeah, for sure.
So you said the new varietal is coming soon. Do you have an idea of when-ish someone or people should keep a lookout for it?
So we'll launch that in like what it is in November.
Okay.
So you'll know for sure, and then after we launch what it is, I would say like a week after that, maybe even less, we'll go on pre-sale. So you can pre-order the new one.
Okay.
And again, I'm so like this one, because you don't know what you're doing. Basically, I don't have any idea what I'm doing, honestly. But like when you start something, you really don't know what you're doing. You're like, are people going to like this? Is this a horrible idea? Like all those thoughts run through your head. But this new one, I'm like, I actually am like peeing my pants excited about it. Like I'm like, this is gonna be amazing. Like I personally can't wait to like drink it every day of my life. But
I'm excited for it.
Yeah, so excited.
It's got a significant hype around it now. So
yeah.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first.
Well, is there anything else that I know we covered a lot, but there's still lots more to cover? Is there anything else that we haven't brought up that you're like, actually, this part is really important for people to know about FOY or about me or about starting a business?
I don't know.
It's okay if the answer is no.
Well, I could literally yap all day, so you can cut me off. Yeah, I would say like start maybe being like a woman entrepreneur. I think I get a lot of questions about that, like how do you have so much confidence? How do you command a room? That kind of thing. And my biggest piece of advice is like just get to know yourself, like be your own best friend. And as conceited as it sounds, like I literally love myself. And I'm really proud of that because like back in the day, it wasn't always the case, obviously. And life ebbs and flows and whatever. But if you can like really hone in on like, this is who I am, I think your purpose in life like comes way easier for you. Because even on our podcast, like we get a lot of requests to do like, what's the purpose of life? What's the purpose of my life? Like, could you talk about that? And it's like, that's so hard to talk about because like everyone is so unique and your goal may not be starting a huge brand. Like that's just not, that's my life. And a lot of other people's, but like yours could be having a family or being a mom. So if you can really focus on yourself and being like, no, I'm the shit, and this is what I want out of life, and I'm not stopping until I get there, your life is just going to open up for you, and it's just going to be beautiful just because it's yours and authentically yours. So yeah.
And pretty incredible for you to have reached that, if you don't mind me saying, you just turned 25?
Yeah, I just turned 25, yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like, I'm in my early 30s, and that's something that I've been talking about with a lot of my girlfriends at this stage in our life. Some of them have families, some of them don't, but we're into our 30s. I feel like a lot of specifically millennials had this idea of where we'd be when we were 30, and we would know our life purpose and be established in a certain way, and people became really disillusioned when they reached that and found out that didn't magically happen.
Yeah.
So to be younger than that and already have identified that kind of path, even if, the continuing with FOY didn't end up being your path, this about yourself though.
Yeah, for sure.
And
yeah.
I think that's pretty incredible to have reached that at a even younger age.
Well, I credit that to my mother because she's, again, always told me, be your own self, be authentic to who you are, and be able to stand on your own 2 feet. Like no one's coming to save you, a man, whoever you want to marry. So like figure it out. And so I figured it out. I mean, I wouldn't say I figured it out. And that's also what I'll say is like, there's so much of my life that I'm like, I do not know what's happening. Like, honestly, I think everyone feels like that. And like you mentioned, in August, I got shingles, and shingles is stress induced. And that really like woke me up, because I thought in my little head that like, oh, everything's fine. I can juggle all this. I'm good. I can post on all these platforms. I can develop this product, have all these meetings, be a girlfriend, be a dog mom, the list goes on and on. It's just life. And when I got shingles, I was like, oh my God, my body was like, yeah, quit. Here's the breaks. If you're not going to listen in your head, you got to pump them somehow. And I was bedridden for 6 weeks. And I think that really, like, again, woke me up. And I was like, okay, I am not going to be able to mentally or physically do all that I want to do if I don't just like hone in on me and be like, this is, yes, it's okay to build this brand and like make it big or whatever, however it turns out. But like at the end of the day, it's like what's important. And so I got a therapist. So she's helping me through all that. But no, all that to say, it's like whatever you do, again, like being a mom, if that's really important to you, or maybe it is opening your own business. Just make sure to really, this is like pot calling the kettle black. Focus on yourself, like really focus on yourself. Because I thought I was doing that and I clearly wasn't. So, and it scared me. So here I am.
So here you are. But it's an inspiring message to be able to share anyway. It's also inspiring to be able to share it saying, I know this from experience.
Yeah.
And now you have an exciting new brand in an exciting new for Arkansas, new for middle of the country space that you are being part of, the wave that's bringing it, the education that's bringing it here. And we are so appreciative that you shared just a little bit of your story with us.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. It is Sober October, so if you are listening, you're like, wow, I'm going to taste this myself. You can go online and put in Sober October for 15% off.
Amazing.
Until the 31st. So that's your little treat.
Great.
Go enjoy it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, it was a lot of fun to hear the story behind FOY, the story behind Caroline, and touch again on one of our favorite topics, which is business in Arkansas and the people behind the businesses.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for having me, and hope I yapped my little ear off and you learned something, or maybe didn't. I don't know.
No, definitely. There's lots of pieces there that I think people will. Yeah, they're all interesting. It's all interconnected. Yes. It's all interesting.
Yeah. Well, thank you again.
Thanks, Caroline.